Hello and welcome to the Local Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson. The Local Leaders Podcast provides a platform for successful business owners to share their stories, their experiences, their advice, and their ideas in order to help our listeners achieve more success in their business and in their lives. Get ready, another great show is coming up. Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Jeff Johnson, your host of the Local Leaders Podcast, and we are here today on this Friday, the 13th, talking with Jonathan Bucklew, who is the co-founder and runs operations for the Joinery, which is down in Lakeland, Florida. And welcome, Jonathan. Thanks for being on the show this morning.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we're absolutely excited about it. We talk to a lot of restaurant owners, but we don't often get as much of an opportunity to talk with food businesses like yours, the eateries, and I'll just stop talking and actually shift that gear back to you and let you tell us all about the Joinery and kind of what where the concept came from and what you guys are doing.
Sure. It's kind of a long journey to how we got to where we are right now. My wife and I both used to have careers where we traveled a lot. I was in the music industry. I played for an indie rock band and we toured all over the world, all over the country for many, many years. And just kind of felt like a local in most cities. And my wife traveled for a software company and she would train on implementation and conversion. And so she was like a Monday through Friday road warrior, and I would be gone for maybe a month or two at a time and then home for a month or two. So we were kind of just like this young married jet setting, traveling, having fun couple for probably the first, 7-8 years of our marriage. And through those travels, we became design enthusiasts. We became foodies. We would eat at some of the best restaurants around the country and stay in some of the coolest hotels and get to play at some of the coolest venues. And it was just a fun, adventurous life. And we met and got married in Lakeland, Florida, which is where we're at right now. Kind of a smaller town, a small, medium-sized town, right in between Tampa and Orlando, right off of the I-4 corridor. And throughout all of our travels, we would always think, man, maybe we should move here. Maybe we should move there. Oh, we loved some of the things you're doing in Kansas City. Oh, what about Albuquerque or Northern California or Seattle or even Utah? I mean, so many places that we love, and everything has every different place has something amazing to offer. So, as my kind of music industry career was sort of winding down around 2012-ish, I started a furniture company, and I make handmade furniture, and started to grow that while Sarah was still traveling quite a bit. And most of everything we sold was online. So, again, we could move anywhere. And every time we thought about, okay, well, what if we go to Nashville? There's like a really cool, vibe in East Nash, and it's popping up, and we have so many connections, so many friends. Maybe we should go up there. Maybe we should go here. Every time we tried to think of a place we wanted to go, we just kind of landed on how much we love our community here in Lakeland, and we love what's happening here with young entrepreneurs and the business incubators that are getting developed here. The Economic Development Council that we have here is just so supportive of the entrepreneurs, the young entrepreneurs. A lot of our local business leaders are very supportive of that, including, the Publix company, which is here. That's the grocery store, the Southeast grocery store. Those guys put a lot of money and support and effort behind some of these organizations here, like Catapult, which is one of the business incubators. So there are a lot of really cool businesses that were kind of coming to the surface. And as much as we like many things about other areas, we really love our community here. And we decided that maybe we should just be a part of trying to cultivate what we really missed about those other areas. And we kind of we view Lakeland as having the potential to kind of be the Austin of Florida, where, it's not your Dallas or Houston, but it's got something special about it that's its own draw. And we really think Lakeland has that. So our original vision was to try to develop kind of a market kind of a concept where we thought we would have a shop for our furniture and a little showroom and have more of a local presence. And then we'd have other artisans kind of rent out from us, maybe some food, maybe a restaurant. And as we looked at many different locations and we started working with the CRA, which is the Community Redevelopment Agency here in town, as to where there are grants and which way is the river flowing and how do we step into that. We looked at a few different redevelopment areas and ultimately landed where we are right now with the Joinery. And the building that we landed in is 12,000 square feet and really didn't lend itself to being a furniture shop or a furniture showroom, but more of just a food hall. And we were referencing a place out in outside of Denver that we loved a lot called The Source. And it was one of the cooler markets that we'd been to. Of course, we've been to a few like in Los Angeles and New York, and there's a cool one in DC. And we've been to a lot of these like kind of food hall / urban market concepts. But this one, we thought, okay, well, this is going to be like a food hall, and it had a brewery in it before, so there are brewery tanks. So it's going to be a brewery and a food hall, and maybe instead of having a furniture shop and a showroom, the whole place will kind of be a showroom because we're going to build all the furniture for it, and we're going to basically make everything inside and kind of bootstrap it. So it will sort of be like a showroom for the work that we do at my furniture company, 1720, and it will be a food hall. And what we'll do is we'll curate by picking the right restaurants and the chefs and restaurateur groups that we like, and we'll find the right brewery to come in and operate the brewing system and run the bar. And so we'll kind of be like a glorified landlord. We'll run a food hall and curate and lease out the spaces. That's how it got started. And now we own the food hall, one of the restaurants, the brewery, and the bar. And we have a full liquor and cocktail bar. And
so it really grew over time, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And so what we originally set out to have a shop and a showroom for my furniture, now I own a restaurant, I guess. I don't know. So, but I mean, to me, that journey is exciting and it's fun. To my wife, it's terrifying and stressful and overwhelming. But I mean, we kind of took who we were and kind of brought it to the community, to the CRA, to other business leaders and advisors, and just said, okay, help us find a way to what's going to work well with what we have and what we can cultivate and be a part of here. And being willing to kind of morph your vision a little bit and kind of roll with the punches I think has been very helpful.
Well, that's a great piece of advice because you have entrepreneurs who tend, you have some who have the vision and they're going to accomplish that vision no matter what, and just tear down or roll through every wall that comes up and get to where they're trying to get to.
Even if it kills me.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have your perspective, which is, hey, well, we wanted to this, but the opportunity is kind of moved over here a little bit. Let me just shift and roll with the waves, to get into the California talk. And I think that's fantastic. And it really sounds like you've got a great business going over there. And you've had that natural growth because you went from being a landlord to now owning the restaurant and the brewery and the bar and, the several of the entities within. So tell me, in kind of rolling through that process from when you got started as a landlord and then ended up acquiring some of those businesses, what challenges did you run across that pushed you in that direction or that opened those doors?
None. We didn't have any challenges at all.
Smooth as silk, right?
Yeah. Easy peasy. So we signed our lease on the place in September of 2018. We were trying to push for a 12-month renovation and open, and we did it in 16 months. So we opened January 20th of 2020, and we were open 40 something days, and then we hit COVID. So it was, just in those 16 months, I could spend a day walking through every hurdle and challenge and every point where it felt like, okay, this whole thing is ruined. Probably a dozen times, it seems like, but we just kept reshaping a little bit and reformatting. we were trying to find the right fit for a brewer. We were very close with a pretty big brewer in town. They're called Coppertail. Ultimately, when it came down to it, the board voted against signing the lease and moving forward, because I think they really wanted to brand the whole thing as a Coppertail brewery instead of primarily the food hall and then be a space inside it. And I understood that. And then we were working with another local brewing company called Grove Roots Brewing. They're in Winter Haven, which is in our county, and that was going to be an expansion for him. And we're huge fans of his beer and his business and his brewery over in Winter Haven. But then when it came down to like actually moving forward with it, they were in the process of under his wife's name opening a distribution company, and I think they were having another baby, and just too many things happening at the same time, and he just couldn't stomach the new location at that moment. So we were encouraged by him and many others to just, why don't you guys get the licensing and take on the bar? It's a great community. We'll help you. We'll help you get going. We'll help you find the right brewers. Like it just seems like, like a co-opetition kind of a thing where, it's like a good community of fellow business owners. And they were encouraging us to take it on ourselves. So I think it was like 4 months before we opened that we decided, okay, we're going to own the brewery and the bar. So now we got to find another, I don't know, 6 figures of how much money after we'd spent everything we had. I mean, my wife and I were not rich coming into this. We sold our house to fund it. And then we had to take on partners and find additional grants. And then we ended up getting some tenant improvement money because we have a land lease on the building. We don't own the building. So we have a land lease, and then we ended up getting the landowners to add into the first term of the lease some tenant improvement money that got paid back to them at an interest rate. So the whole thing was a puzzle, just getting open. And so instead of just finding tenants, we were now going to own the bar and the brewery. Somewhere around, I want to say like maybe it was August or September of 2019. The construction company that we had filed for bankruptcy.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and I think it was a third generation large construction company here in town who does huge projects all over the Southeast, and they were even growing in North Carolina. And he'd purchased some furniture from me, that the current owner, for one of his offices up north. So I had a relationship with him, and it's a long story. I think one of them is actually in jail or going to go to jail. Anyway, so we had to change construction companies towards the end, and I had to try to salvage the relationships with all the subs who were halfway done and make sure that they were made whole on what they were owed and would finish the job. And just so many hurdles in between it. Then we opened on January 20th, and it just took a village to get something like this open. There's so many, inspections and licenses and permits and things to get close. And it was literally the day that we were doing our first private event, and we had the fire marshal in there saying, you don't have a voice, what do they call it? Like a voice speaker system. It just has the alarm going. And that was the system that was in there before. But since we had increased the capacity, we passed a threshold to now where we had to have a voice saying, there's a fire, get out of the building, instead of just the alarm.
Yeah, it's like people don't know what that alarm means. You got to now tell them, right?
Yeah, and there were like 200 people on our front patio waiting to come in, and the fire marshal saying we can't let them in. And I'm going, well, what am I going to do? I mean, it's like down to the wire all over the place.
Oh my gosh. And
then we open, and then we hit COVID like 40 days later, and we basically had to shut down. And our revenue model was based on collecting rent from restaurants and then selling alcohol at the bar.
Yeah.
And when we opened our doors, we still had like, I don't know, $60,000 or $80,000 in construction invoices coming in, and we were like drained down because we were stocking up on inventory and last minute purchases and this and that, and it just starts going so fast. And then all of a sudden, what was the first thing to dry up in COVID was restaurants couldn't pay rent, and nobody was buying alcohol at bars because you couldn't go out. Yep. So our 2 streams of revenue completely dried up. So we had no income, and we had like, I don't know, $50,000 to $80,000 in expenses every month. And it was just like, how the hell are we going to do this? And then a lot of the initial COVID support was based off of your 2019 numbers.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So
Which you didn't have any.
We didn't have any. And so we had nothing to really prove that on, but we were an established business because we had to start our business to, to fund all of the construction. So we had a legal business, but we had no revenue. So that was a big challenge. We ended up working with a local bank who was very helpful in walking us through the process. And they were really an advocate for us putting together the package to present a case to get some PPP money.
Mm-hmm.
So, having the relationship with the local bank made a huge difference for us when it came to the PPP and government funding and all that stuff. Anyway, that's kind of the journey to get open. And then one of the restaurants, most of them shut down initially for like a little bit, and then we figured out how we could reopen and try to gear towards like takeout and things like that. Ultimately, one of them it was their second location. It got to be May and they couldn't come back, and we were wanting to add something healthy into the space. We felt it really needed it for the overall cohesiveness and what we could offer in the food hall. So it's hard to find someone who's willing to open a new location in the middle of COVID, and then to find someone to open like something healthy and fresh but still flavorful. That was even harder. So ultimately we decided to do it ourselves. And so we opened one of the restaurants. So now we have a restaurant, the bar, and the whole space. And I'm ready for it.
Wow. You're making me tired just hearing that story.
Yeah.
That's, it's man, you guys had to go through some emotional strain and
for sure.
and stress and financial stress to get this project pulled off. But it looks like after all of that pain and agony, that you're on the other side now. And
yes, we turned our first month in the black in March of this year.
Wow.
So yeah, and you're right. All of those things are true. It's been the hardest 2 years of my life. I'm 43. Definitely the hardest 2 years of my life, but also at the same time, it's been some of the most fun I've ever had and most excitement. My wife would say it's the most terrifying 2 years of her life, and she would like to go back into her turtle shell and never come out.
Yes, I understand. Is she still in her other job, or is she full-time?
No, she left her job in late 2017, and we were just living on the furniture company.
Mm-hmm.
And she left because we were going to start to pursue doing something along these lines here in town. Gotcha.
So she was all in at that point. Then you had no income stream to fall back on or anything.
No,
so.
And the furniture company was trying to sustain us, and I mean, we really leveraged our ability to get good furniture into the joinery and cool stuff. And so we made all that basically for cost. So I had like a year where the bulk of our work was not really profitable work. So yeah, it was a tough year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever.
Yeah. Now, have you been able to, I guess, build customers and grow the furniture business as well by having supplied all that? Has that been a good showroom for you, or how are you kind of making that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's kind of up in the air right now. So most of the revenue that we had from the furniture company came from online sales. So I would probably say 90% of what we sold would ship out of state, and we just make it, put it on a freight truck, and ship it out. And we started getting a lot of like kind of larger local kind of build outs where we would do more like kind of office suites, like a desk, a huge conference table, some unique pieces over here, custom installation of this. And so that work became overwhelming on top of the work of the joinery. So I put the online store on pause, and I'll take some work as people will reach out to me, but I'm real selective on what I'll take, especially if it's out of state and even locally. So I'm taking a few things locally and taking some things out of state. I also had a couple of guys who worked for me for a long time who kind of moved on and started doing their own thing. So it's one of those where I love having my shop, and I love the capacity of my shop, and I don't have any debt on it, and I don't want to get rid of it. It's very affordable to keep it as it is. I'm taking enough work to keep the guys who are there busy enough, and just kind of keeping that on cruise while we sort of normalize for a little bit.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense because you can only split yourself so many ways. And the corporate word, at least it used to be when I was in the corporate world, was bandwidth. We only have so much bandwidth and so much capability. Some people are better than others at multitasking and taking on all these different projects. But you had your hands full. You and your wife both had your hands full. So that's certainly understandable. But I'm sure it's beautiful, and I can't wait to one day maybe be able to get over to Lakeland and roll through there and check out kind of what you guys have built and what you've done. So how's the restaurant piece doing? How's the restaurant business itself? Has it come on like you want?
Yeah. So the restaurant element, it's healthy and fresh food. So it's, a little bit more expensive of a restaurant to run. It's a little labor intensive, and fresh foods are a little bit more expensive, when you're buying a lot of organic and locally sourced things. Yeah. So our goal for that restaurant space in there was, it's a value add overall. So we didn't expect that element to be the highest grossing restaurant in the space, but we're doing well. We're in the black from that revenue stream in and of itself. So we kind of run it like, where we have the restaurant revenue stream, we kind of have the house, which is like a landlord sort of overview, and then we have the bar, and we treat those internally like tenants of the parent LLC, for our P&Ls and all that. And ultimately, we'll be firing the brewery up. We haven't brewed any beer yet because all the revenue dried up like right after we got open. Right. And so now we're only beginning to recover. So ultimately, we'll run the brewery as another P&L. But yeah, the restaurant's in the black, and it's doing well, and we've got great feedback on it. And I think it's really adding something great to the space for somebody who wants something, healthy and fresh. And the bar's doing well. That's in the black, and then the house is finally in the black as well. So.
Well, you guys have definitely turned the corner, and hopefully your wife is sleeping a little better. And,
yeah, she is. And our goal was never to be like full-time operations in this thing, and we just kind of had to do it. And when we hit COVID, we had to let everybody go because we didn't have any money, and we had to lay everyone off so that they could get unemployment. Right. And so it was literally my wife and I. We would go in. We were the housekeepers. We would unlock the doors in the morning. We would sit behind the bar and sell a growler of beer to somebody who wanted to take some beer home. And we were just together in the space all the time, pulling everything. And that's when I really realized that I'd fallen in love with bourbon. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but I can appreciate it. For me, it's tequila. So. Yeah. I've got a little Mexican influence from my wife, who's from Mexico City. So nice. I adopted a taste over the years now for tequila, and beer's a great chaser.
Yeah. Well, we're going down to Oaxaca in October just to get a little breather. So.
Yeah, and have you been able to at this point get some help or start to develop some other leaders within the overall definitely. Business?
Yeah, we have the structure is and Sarah's been able to, that's my wife Sarah, she's been able to step out of the daily operations kind of at the end of March of this year. But no, before we opened, we hired a director of operations who had a lot of experience with a large restaurant group in Tampa and even at another food hall. So she came on as our director of operations. And then we have a director of brand experience who is helping with the brand voicing, whether it be through our social media platforms or just the decor inside, keeping us on brand, keeping us elevated, keeping the brand experience at the highest possible level that we can get it. Mm-hmm. And then we have, for the restaurant, we have a chef cuisine. So she's the head chef of the restaurant. She's kind of managing that whole restaurant unit. And then our director of operations also has a lot of bar experience. So she's kind of bar managing right now. So I work on site probably between 30 and 40 hours a week at the Joinery. And then our director of ops is there full time. The brand experience girl is there full time, and we have we've subbed out some of our social media work. Mm-hmm. So we have a third party company is helping us kind of keep up with all those platforms and communication. We have a total of just under 30 employees right now.
Wow.
So yeah, we're back to full staff, and that was kind of a
That's
gradual process from May or June of last year through the end of the year. I think by the end of last year we were back to full staff.
that's awesome. That's an awesome story of recovery, and
Yeah.
coming really from almost the depths of hell. Which
Yeah,
is kind
that's
of
what it
probably
felt
what
like.
it felt like. Yeah, it
Yeah,
sounds like it.
definitely. Yeah.
And I can appreciate it because I've been in a similar place, not with the same kind of, not the exact same situation, but when you got all your money at risk and
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
it's pretty much gone, and it's, it will definitely freak out a person, and
Yes.
it makes it really challenging. But you guys stuck. You found a way through it. You mentioned earlier having a local bank relationship, which I think is great advice for all of our listeners. If you haven't started to develop and cultivate a local bank relationship, start now, before you open. Because,
Right.
and especially if you don't need money now, that's the best time to start, because if you try to start when you need it, you're done.
Yeah, and so that's one thing I never had really appreciated until we did the joinery, was the relationship with a local bank.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it's like anything. You look at QuickBooks online accounting software. It's great, but it doesn't fit every nook and cranny of the nuance of every business, right?
Right.
And just like that with banking, we found such a similarity. Like, I've always been with the big Bank of America in all my music career and all that, because they were everywhere and we could make cash
ATMs.
deposits from merch. Yeah. And the online stuff, and I run payroll through that and blah, 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 all this stuff. So I liked just the features of having a national bank, because we had a business where we were traveling nationally and internationally. So I think that made sense for us at that point. But when it came to the joinery and just the different revenue models and how it's set up, where we have, I almost think like we have a little bit of it's a little diversified, because we have some rental income, we have some alcohol sales, and we have some restaurant sales. So I think it's got some nuance to it. It's not just a one shape sort of a business. So when it came time to needing to get across the finish line, after we'd already been having this relationship with this local bank, it was easy to find the guys who are higher up in the smaller bank to really take a manual underwriting perspective and look at the actual risk. Because that's what a loan is all about, is the risk assessment, and is it a loan they could write. And on paper, it might be different than understanding the community, the concept, the diversification of the revenue streams, and being able to really look at that risk and help you get across the finish line, and kind of buying in with you for the community, because the local bank is also part of the community. So they have a much more community focused mentality. They know what the CRA is, why those funds were put into this project. They know the development that's going in behind the joinery with 300 apartments, and this office building that's getting built with like 500 people going to be working in it. I mean, so they can factor those things in the way that a larger bank can't, because that information doesn't fit on an application for an extra 50,000 to get across your finish line. You know what I mean? And those things can make all the difference. So I think that was a huge factor in getting the joinery open and getting through COVID.
Yeah, two major obstacles there that you guys have had to go through early, and goodness, we're just 2021, man. Yeah,
I know.
You're just barely out of it, basically.
I know.
It's COVID's still trying to poke its head out and create some challenges and some potential hardships in the future. Hopefully that won't happen.
Like whack-a-mole.
Yeah, you're right. It just keeps popping back up. But we certainly hope that we can avoid as much or all of that as possible, just from a health standpoint as well as from business, because none of us want to do that again.
Right. I would agree.
Frankly, and restaurant industry definitely has been hurt, and it's created challenges we haven't really talked about, but facing the industry as a whole, staffing has been an issue. You're pretty much fully staffed right now, so that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Around the country, that's not the case, and
Right.
in a lot of the traditional restaurants, it's a big issue affecting hours and days open and things like that. And then the food shortages and rising food costs, are making an impact.
And the increase in the minimum wage coming too.
Yep.
Like all of those things are factoring in.
Yep, exactly. It's just so many different hurdles to jump that as a business owner, you can curse about it and stomp your feet and do everything you want to do, but you can't necessarily change it. And
Right.
I mean, you can work toward that with other people, but you got to find a way around it. And I think being able to shift and jive and kind of be creative. And you're creative, obviously. You're a musician. You're a craftsman.
I'm just a drummer. I'm not a musician, but
and an entrepreneur. Hey, I didn't know that didn't count.
It doesn't count. I'm not an artist either. I just run big machines. It's fun.
Oh man,
take rough wood and sand it down.
That's something. Well, so you're not Tim the Tool Man Taylor, huh? You remember him?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, not quite.
I don't know what made me think of that.
But I still have all my fingers. I'm not quite.
Yeah, I guess I'm showing my age probably. But hey, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Kind of heading toward a wrap up because again, well, we've been talking for a while, and I appreciate you sharing that story because I know it's you didn't. I know there's emotion in there because, as you start thinking back through all that and the pain and challenges that you guys and struggles you went through. But when you look at the business today, one of the things I like to ask owners is, especially in the restaurant space or even overall in different business units you have, how do you kind of measure success for your business? Are you looking at sales totals? Are you looking at kind of what are the metrics that you look for? And I'm just curious more than anything because I'm trying to get a sense of kind of how, and every business seems to have a little bit different answer.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think for my wife and I in doing this, the bottom line had to be there and it had to make sense, but that's not the driver. Right. The driver is quality of life, is enjoying the work that we do. It's finding, kind of what we're created to do and bringing that to light in our own community. And so for us, for Sarah, she's very design and vision oriented. And for me, I'm a doer and a builder and a fearless implementer. Like I'll just go do it. So the two of us together, we're able to bring something like this to our community and to us, like the design and the curation of the tenants and the experience of the space. And those are the driving forces, I think. So what I love is just the enjoyment of the work. So my metric is are we doing something that we think is great? So that's how I feel successful. The bottom line has to be there. Like, okay, we're profitable. Yeah, great. Okay. But are we doing something that we love and that we're excited about and that we're enjoying? And that to me is the measure of success. But as far as like the metrics that we're looking at, yeah, I mean, it's different for the bar. It's different for, the house as like a landlord, and it's different for the restaurant. Obviously we're watching the top line revenue. Those are our metrics because we had some sales goals that we set out to hit originally, and then it just everything went to hell with COVID and had no idea. And I don't even know if we're back to where we ultimately will be or what. I don't think so. But yeah, man, we're watching our cost of goods, especially on the food side, with trying to buy healthy, organic, and grass-fed, meat and all that kind of stuff like that.
That's got to be crazy priced right now.
Yeah, and trying to watch that in our labor, and then just keep ourselves from losing money. And then pricing, like I think we're going to hit a little bit of a price increase this fall, just because we have to. The cost of goods is going up, and the cost of labor is going up. And it's harder to find good people who want to stay. So you need to pay them. You need to honor the good work that they're doing and be able, to pay them more. But there's got to be revenue to be able to do that. And I'm sure it's like this in any business, but just to open our doors, we have expenses that go to here, right? And then if our sales are, $1 million a year versus 500,000 a year, the difference in labor is like this, right? But everything else stays the same. So really, it's like in that upper, push where you really see that profitability, because you have a lot of costs that are fixed, property taxes, insurances, our lease, any debt liabilities that you have. I mean, just so many things are just fixed. Utilities, like, goodness, I've never seen a $9,000 utility bill until
Oh
this.
my gosh.
It's like, and in the summer, 12,000 square feet and
Trying
7
to get
restaurants
trying
and
to
a
get it
brewery.
heated in Florida. Yeah.
Yeah, well, cooled off in Florida. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Cool.
Yeah. So, those things, those expenses don't change. So we kind of have our break-even points, and it's like, okay, if we can just keep the sales here and higher, that's where we're really going to see the profitability come. So we have those thresholds that we're watching, each for the bar and for the restaurant industry or the restaurant itself. For everybody else, we kind of have our structure is that there's a base rent versus a percentage of sales. So when overall we're doing well, the house increases as well. So we've been above that threshold now since March and later on all fronts.
Are you guys, are the tenants that you have, and I just thought of this question as you mentioned that, but are they are you co-opting them on the marketing piece? Are they, how are you structuring that, I guess is my question.
That's a great question. So each of them are their own business within the joinery, but the joinery markets the space as a whole. So part of their, they pay rent in CAM, which is common area maintenance. And that looks a lot differently in a situation like the joinery where it's a food hall than it would in a strip mall. In a strip mall, your common area maintenance is like parking lot, cleaning up, painting the buildings, trash services, those kind of things. Whereas in the joinery, it's furniture and fixtures, it's front of house staff that gets shared for CAM. It's a lot of the utilities that get used by all of the customers.
Right.
It's marketing for the space as a whole. It's to put on events at the joinery to bring people in. So, their CAM is as much, if not sometimes, some cases more than the base rent, just to cover their portion of the expenses of running the facility as a whole. So yeah, there's some marketing dollars that's built into our CAM budget. And so we do market the joinery, and through our social media platforms and our marketing outlets, we try to share evenly amongst the tenants. Like, if we're doing a post on this restaurant, we'll make sure we hit everybody else as close as we can before we hit that one again with something significant. If somebody's got something special going on, we try to work that in. So yeah, it's very collaborative in that sense.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate you sharing that. It's a curious business model to me, and
yeah, it's very unique.
Yeah, it's different, and it's and it's not like my business, which is a whole lot more simple. And I'm here from I've got my own thing, and I do my marketing, and that's it. But in a shared space like that, I guess that model probably came from the malls and strip centers, like you said, and all those other places in the past. So really cool. Well, I want to move us toward wrapping up, and the information you've shared has just been amazing, and I'm sure our audience is going to love it and eat it up, and hopefully find some golden nuggets in there that are really pertinent to each of you that are listening, to help you along your path. And I'll just ask Jonathan, kind of to maybe think about a couple of words of wisdom or advice ideas, for any of our new entrepreneurs or people that are still standing at the precipice, hesitant but wanting to take that first step. Kind of what would you share with those folks? And I didn't prep you for this, so this is off the cuff.
Okay.
But what would you share with them, and maybe one or two pieces of advice you might give?
Yeah. Okay, I've got. First of all, I would say get your personal finances in order. Get out of debt. Don't go into debt. Don't live beyond your lifestyle. Live below your means. Learn to tell your money on a personal level where to go rather than wondering where it went. Have an emergency fund if you're going to be an entrepreneur. have, 4 to 6 months of living expenses set aside that you don't touch. Don't live on credit cards. Don't do car payments. Don't lease cars. Don't do those kinds of things that can get taken away from you if you hit a financial crisis on your personal level. So that's the first thing I would say. That is going to give you the most peace of mind. It's going to give you peace at home. It's going to give you that shalom, that where you can go out and you can murder it out there because you know that you're doing okay on the home front. That will give your family peace of mind. And when your family has peace and is supportive of you dealing with the stress that you might be dealing with, that's going to pay dividends. So that would be the first and foremost piece of advice: is get your own house in order. And second one would be start before you're ready. You're never going to be fully ready. You can't prepare well enough to not make mistakes. You have to learn to recognize that things that didn't work out how you planned when that happens, that doesn't mean you made a mistake. It just means that the results weren't what you anticipated. And so be willing just to go back and rethink it. We set out to have a furniture shop in a showroom.
Yeah.
And now I have a food hall, a bar, and a restaurant. But I didn't fail at opening a shop in a showroom. The vision morphed and changed depending on the opportunities that were in front of me.
Yeah.
The next thing I would say would be, wisdom is found in the counsel of many. So find those people who you want to surround yourself with, who are a little bit further upstream than you in many areas of life, whether that be personal finance, whether that be a healthy family, whether that be spiritually, whether that be in business. But surround yourself with people who you can go to on all fronts, on a personal front, on a business front, just on an emotional health front. And live in community and share your journey and your life as openly and honestly with those people as you can, because you're going to need them. I have never needed my friends and my mentors more in my life than I have in the last 2 years. And I can't stress enough the value of those things. I think that's pretty much what I would say.
That's awesome. I was taking notes as you were talking. I'm gonna go back and make sure I capture those, because that was.
I think you're recording it. So
yeah, that was very succinct and actually really good advice, and some things that I think all of our audience will appreciate and should take not into consideration, but should do. Do as Jonathan says in this case, and get your house in order and. Before you start. So again, thank you so much, Jonathan. I just want to give you another plug. We're talking about the Joinery at 640 East Main Street, Lakeland, Florida. Got the address right, didn't I?
You did.
And the website is the Joinery, LKLD.com. I'm assuming
LKLD. That's a Lakeland, buddy.
Yeah, I figured that's what that was. LKAD. Yep. Don't forget the LKAD. And so we've been here today with Jonathan Bucklew, the co-founder. He and his wife, Sarah. Sarah's not with us today, but thank you, Sarah, for allowing him the opportunity to come on here and talk to us. We appreciate all that you've been through, and thank you again for being here today, Jonathan. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. And good luck with the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. And for all our listeners, thank you for joining us again for this episode of the Local Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson, wishing you a great afternoon, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you.